Hello and welcome back! Hopefully everyone can hear me and all of this is going well. Also, hopefully everyone can see me. Yes, I can see me. And I can also see the wonderful laugh, love, Lindy. Joining us for our third and final part of a look at Call of Cthulhu here on Roll Up today. We're using the 7th edition. And we've only really gotten the basic characteristic stats rolled so far, so we're going to fast talk our way through a lot of this. But before we do, shout out to Encounter Roleplay's sponsors. That's Fancy Grounds, who is our virtual tabletop of choice, which we are using to roll all of our stats here today. You are welcome to roll real dice, however, and we recommend tabletop loot. And don't forget to stick around to the end for a chance of winning another set from them. Also, major shout out to Wayland Games. If you head over to waylandgames.co.uk, you can get yourself a huge range of D&D, Warhammer, and 40k minis for 20% off. I think I did. And also, shout out to Chaosium, who are sponsoring Cthulhu here on the channel this season, especially the Masks of Nyarlathotep. So close! So close. How did that go this week, Lindy? How did that go?
It was amazing. We got a fantastic start on our wonderful adventure in Lima, Peru. We've already left Lima and headed to another more remote town, and we're about to go off to explore some pyramid. It's super exciting. You should check it out. We've got a whole bunch of very interesting characters that I cannot wait to see how they all become friends or frenemies and what goes on. Oh, you need to check it out. Masks and Nyarlathotep Wednesdays, 1 to 4, right here.
Right here, and followed right afterwards by Warhammer, which isn't related to this show, but I really want to plug it because I'm in it. So yeah, Wednesdays is a great day here on Encounter Roleplay, but all week, come and check us out. This is the very last show of the week on Encounter, so sit back, grab your drink, and enjoy as we dive back into the characters we were making. So last week, we managed to get our characteristics rolled up. Both Lindy and I rolled a set each. And Lindy, I have a question. As you are acting as my keeper in this moment, I rolled a couple of stats using 2d6 plus 6 times 5. And I really want to swap them because chat last time wanted me to turn this character into a diamond thief criminal type. And I want to swap my size, which is 75, which was randomly rolled, with my intelligence, which is only 50, which was also randomly rolled. Would you allow this in one of your games?
I see no reason not to allow it. They're both 2d6 plus 6 times 5. It's the exact same random rolls, just moving places. I don't see why you have to roll something and stick it into the exact stat block that you rolled it into. As long as it's the same dice being rolled, swap it up as much as you like.
That's how there are a couple of ways rolling up. There is the random way, there's a standard array, there's point buy, very much the same as 5e. You've got options. And there's also a way of boosting your stats by sweet-talking your keeper, using some background information to add an extra, I think it's an extra d10 to add. In this case, we've not done that, and I just wanted to do that quick little switcheroo to really make this character work. Because the next thing we're going to be looking at is figuring out age modifications, which will affect movement and all of the other minor stats. So, Lindy, why don't we start talking about your character while I quickly line up some graphics to help explain what we're doing.
So, for age modifiers, I'm going to be playing a professor. And depending on your age, there are certain benefits and or drawbacks you can get. If you are, I'll just go through the age modifiers real quick. If you are age 15 to 19, you would deduct 5 points among strength and size. You also deduct 5 points for education, but you roll twice to generate a luck score, and you use the higher value. So it's like getting advantage on your luck roll, because you're young, you haven't used up any of your luck yet, hardly. If you're in your 20s or 30s, you make 1 improvement check for education, which means you roll a d100. If it's higher than your education score, you get to add some points to your education. If you're in your 40s, you make 2 improvement checks for education, but you deduct 5 points from strength, con, or dex, and you reduce your appearance by 5. It doesn't mean 5 points from strength, con, and dex. You can pick 5 from each one, or you can deduct each one by, like, 1, and then 1 by 2, or however you want to divide it up. If you're in your 50s, make 3 improvement checks for education, because you learn more the older you get. Then you deduct 10 points from strength, con, or dex, and reduce appearance by 10. If you're like me, and on the last season of Call of Cthulhu, you're in your 80s, you make 4 improvement checks for education, but you deduct 80 points from strength, con, or dex, and you reduce your appearance by 25. So Mildred Crabapple.
That's significant.
She was quite the athletic and dexterous person in her youth, but having to deduct 40 points from each of those, well, she was a bit feeble in her old age. As makes sense. So basically, the older you get, the more you have to deduct from certain things, but you get to add to your education rolls. So that's a pretty cool thing that you get to do. All right.
So for your professor, how old are you feeling? I think we decided last time that we probably went to school together, so our ages are probably going to be pretty similar. So
yes, I would say
feeling?
We're probably in our 30s or 40s.
I think that's reasonable. I think let's go late 30s. I think
late 30s?
We're still in, we're still got a bit of youth to us. We're still learning and growing. It's not too late for our big adventures to still happen for us.
Yeah, especially if you're a criminal, you're gonna need some agility a little bit for that. Your big heist.
Yeah.
So we'll be in our late 30s, which means we'd just get 1 improvement check for education, and we don't have to subtract anything from any stats.
Okay, well, Lindy, if you would like to control the rolls again, because you did a great job.
Sure,
like my wonderful magical assistant, Lindy, will you spin the wheel of fortune for us?
Of course. I'm just gonna copy that. Oop. 25.
Okay.
Is a fail. I don't think any of us were that low of education.
No, I am looking for... Where is my education? 50. We're both on 50. That's why we were...
Alright.
Thinking we're about the same.
Well, neither of us succeed on our check. So,
Alright.
we don't get any improved education.
No, we didn't get to go to any
boost our education
special
score.
seminars or things.
We've learned very little.
We are street smart, and some of us are near genius, in fact. Thank you so much to Anonymous for that donation of £5, which reminds me, last week, Anonymous, I don't know if it's the same one or not, donated so that I can have a mount. And I've been thinking about what a 1920s mount would be. I'd like to think that...
You get a Model T? You get a horse?
I could go for the Model T or the horse, but I was thinking maybe if this adventure were to play out, it would end up with us going to Egypt. And that I could maybe get a camel. I want a camel. I want one of those bad mood bear camels. But why don't we let chat input? Did chat have any ideas on what sort of transportation I could be rock and rolling as my jewel thief character? Thank you everyone as well for the retweets. I will update that counter any second. Alright, so neither of us improve our education.
Nope.
What is the next stat we will figure out? Let's have a look.
The next stat I like to do is damage build and damage bonus. So that's really easy. You add your strength and your size together, and depending on what that number is, depends on how much you get. So, what is your strength plus size?
My strength is 60. And my size, because I swapped those stats over, is 50, which gives me a total of 110.
110. Alright, you are solidly in the 85 through 124. You get no damage bonus and no build bonus. So you're just average Joe. Whenever you make melee attacks, just straight up. What is my...
so your strength is 65, and your... Was it size?
Yes, size.
Yes, your size is 50, so you are 5 whole points above me at 115.
Yeah. So we don't get any bonus. If you are exceptionally strong and large, like the bigger you are, the stronger you are, you can get up to a 1d4 or a 1d6 damage bonus, and a +1 or a +2 build, which it's nice because, for example, my current character, Catherine, she has a 1d4 damage bonus, so anytime she makes any attacks with melee weapons, she gets to roll an additional d4 to whatever damage she's already rolling, because she's got that much oomph to put behind her attacks. So after damage bonus and build, I like to figure out hit points, which is your constitution plus size. And then you figure out the hit point total. Let's see. Kind of then dividing the total by 10. So, what is your constitution and size?
My constitution
size is now 50.
Is 35. And yes, my size is 50, so that's 85.
Alright, so you'd have 8. Yeah, you add them up and then you divide by 10. So you have 8 hit points, which is fairly average for a collector. 8 to 10. 8's a little on the low side, because their constitution's awful. But I'd say between 8 and 12 is what I've seen most characters.
A terrible bout of something, didn't we?
Yes.
I'm not sure
what it was or something.
Yeah, maybe growing up in a not so nice part of town or something like that, and we both contracted some sort of disease.
Yeah.
Or even on our separate adventures.
Very hardy. Alright, what is my constitution?
I
think it's like
your
really bad.
Libby was 25. You are even lower
25.
than me.
And my size is
75 in total.
75? So, yeah, I have 7 hit points. That is very low.
And just to remind chat, these character sheets will be available on the Encounter Roleplay website fairly soon. I just need to get them all typed up and added up there for you. When we're finished, they will be there, and any game you'd like to play them in, you are more than welcome to.
Right, and Cleric of Chord, I see you. How is the improvement to education done? You roll a d100, and if it is above your current education score, you get to roll a d10 and add it to your education. So, if we'd succeeded on our checks, we would have rolled a d10.
We would have done much better.
Yeah, we could have gotten anything from a 1 to a 10 bonus. So, but we didn't. We were not very educated.
No,
right, and then I think the last thing.
Educated.
Yeah, our last thing would be movement. So this is interesting. So you if your dex and strength are each less than your size, your movement rate is 7. That's basically the number of yards or meters up to 5 times their movement value in 1 round is how much you can travel. So 7 times 5 would be 35, so you can move 35 feet essentially in a round. If either strength or dex is equal to or greater than size, if all 3 are equal, your movement's 8. If your strength and dex are greater than size, movement is 9. However, the older you get, the less size you get, the less movement you get. So if you're in the 40s, you deduct 1 from movement. If you're in the 50s, you deduct 2, 60s, 3, 70s, 4, and 80s, 5. So Mildred was also very slow. She had a movement speed of 2. She moved very, very slow. People had to help her get around.
And Mildred is never late.
She arrives precisely as soon as she can. Oh, all right.
Okay, so we are in our late 30s, so luckily we don't take the movement penalty of being in our 40s.
No. I think both our strength and dex are greater than size. Because I think we're pretty small.
Let's see.
We're both strong.
Yes, both of us are stronger than we are large. Or proportioned.
What about our dexterity?
I am faster, and you are the same.
The same?
Your strength,
okay.
Your strength is higher, but your dexterity is not. Your dexterity is
equal. Well then my movement would be 8, and your movement would be 9. So I'd be move 40, and you move about 45. So, pretty good.
So you are on 8. I am on 9. Very interesting.
We're very average investigators.
I know this is a tiny bit crunchy, but going through the book is all laid out really clearly. This is one of the things that really impressed me.
It's all in the same section of the book, too, so you don't have to flip around from, like, portion to portion of the book. It's really blurry on the screen, but it's really convenient.
If you have the book or the PDF and you're following along, it's page 48 that you want at the moment. That's where we're looking at these various modification tables currently.
48, 49, and it even goes into 50 a little bit. The next thing, before I do my occupational skill points, because it tells you how many you get there, I like to look at personal interest skill points, which is you multiply your intelligence by 2, and you get to put those points in any skills you want. So our intelligence is, I think one of us is pretty smart.
Yours is 90.
So I get
so that's
180 personal interest points.
Moly.
All right, what about you?
Personal interest points get spent on?
So when you look at
75.
Yes, 75 times 2, so you'll get 150 personal interest points. If my math's good. Yeah, that sounds great.
Yep.
That sounds great.
That was right.
Yay! I can math. Brain math. So personal interest points are different than occupation points, because if you go into the occupations, for example, you're, let me look at professor. Whoop.
Oh, I can pull that up on screen. I have that.
Oh yes, pull it up on screen.
Alright, so professor. This is a little bit blurry. I'm gonna apologize. I did rip it straight out of the PDF. But just so you guys can see this week, let's just...
So if you look at the professor, it gives you a description of like where you're going to find a professor. You're working in like, you know, a school, or for the most part, you know, you can earn your tenure from a university around the world. It says occupational skill points, which is your education score times 4. And those can go into the occupational skills. For example, with the professor, it is library use, other language, own language, psychology, any fourth skills as an academic, era, or personality skills. So you can choose, so you have to put personality or occupational skill points into library, languages, psychology, and then any 4 other skills. Certain ones are more specific, like they generally, some of them only give you 1 extra skill, because professor is so vague. It's usually you're a professor of something, so you'd pick according to that. Like if you look at criminal, do you have the criminal one up?
So the criminal doesn't actually is part of a larger group of things, and I've chosen to go with the freelance / solo criminal because I felt that matched our concept of like a dual thief a little bit better than the others.
Yes.
So for this one, I get occupational skill points of education times 2 plus either my dexterity times 2 or my appearance times 2. The thinking being how you go about it, or how charming, attractive that you are.
But if you look at their skills, you have appraise, art, craft, acting. So appraisal, acting, law, or other language. So you can pick between those 2. Listen, and then either 2 out of these, which is charm, fast talk, intimidate, or persuade, psychology, and sleight of hand. So they don't let you pick any other 4 skills. So those are your occupational skill points you get to put into those specific skills. Your personal interest points, which is your intelligence time 2, you can put into any type of skills. You could put them in whatever you want. You can boost your occupational skill points further if you want to be better, really good at, or expert in your field. Or you could be like, I want to be stealthy. Or, you know, I feel like I'd walk quietly. Or I feel like, you know, I would be good at first aid because this happened in my past. And so these would be your personal interest points. Or, oh, my character is rather interested in mechanical repair as a hobby. So those are where your personal interest points are for versus your occupational skill points. So that's basically the difference between the 2 is, yay,
so this part of the process has a lot of points, and it feels a tiny bit overwhelming to start with, but then at the same time it's like shopping with a credit card. You've got so much to like give away and to customize, and so many options. Chat asks, how is Call of Cthulhu to run for a beginner GM? I found it a lot of fun to run because it is such a narrative system. I'm actually running my first ever Call of Cthulhu game at the moment. I've DM'd 5e, but I've never DM'd Call of Cthulhu before, and I've played very little Call of Cthulhu, actually. And so far, I've been finding it just so much fun because it's so narrative, and there are so many different options for the characters, so they can be exactly what the player wants them to be, which really helps the players embrace who they are and explore the world as people. I don't know what you think about it, Lindy. You're kind of an expert. You're an old hack.
It is a bit of a narrative story, especially in the beginning. In the beginning, the first couple of sessions you do, there should be hardly any, if any, sanity loss. I mean, very low, because your characters are just starting to figure out, maybe something isn't right here. Like, they don't start seeing the weird stuff till several episodes in, or, you know, game sessions in. And so it's very much more like you're building a mystery, like a game of Clue. You're leaving little clues here and there. And a lot of it can be improvised, because your investigators might find something. They're like, oh man, and you're like, that actually ties in really well. Yeah, that could be a clue for sure. I can tie that into here, and it's really fun. It's a really fun system, especially because you don't have to worry about dice pools. It's all just a percentile, or, oh, hey, roll a luck roll, see if you can find something, you know? So it's really, really pretty simple system to DM for, because there's not a ton of rules involved. It's very, very story-based and story-driven. And there's a lot of fun modules, story modules and little one-shots online that you can find if you want to, if you're worried about making up your own, like, original story for your first time DMing. There's a lot of fun little one-shots or small campaigns that you can run that basically just give you your story, and you kind of go along with it. And don't worry if your party members stray from it, because they're going to. It's like any other system. They're going to wander off.
If you actually go to the Chaosium website, there's a free Quickstart guide, which includes basically all of the information to build a character and a little adventure in there too.
Little adventure is actually
completely free PDF. Well worth going and checking out and supporting the Chaosium crew. Is that a raid I see?
That is a raid from the Dice Den.
Let's get some hype in chat and some swords. Defend the channel against our invaders. But yes, welcome friends. Thank you so much for coming and checking out Roll Up. We're just in the middle of our Call of Cthulhu character creation. We're just taking a look at the skills available. There's a lot of skills. So how do you normally approach your skill allocation?
Yes, well the first skill I always pointed to first is credit rating, and there's a suggested credit rating underneath each occupation. For a professor, it's 20 to 70. For your criminal, let's see if I can get there. Oh, your credit rating is between 5 and 65, so it really kind of depends on
how good a criminal I am.
And there is a super spiffy on same places where you can find like personal interest points, how to roll up your damage bonus, your movement size. On page 51, there is living standards, which tells you basically what your credit rating equivalates to. So a credit rating of 0 is you're penniless, 1 to 9 is poor, 10 to 49 is average, 50 to 89 is wealthy, 90 plus is rich, and 99 is super rich. Let me tell you, with a credit rating of 90, you are set. You have a daily spending limit. That's what I'm playing as Colette in Tomes and Tentacles. So she just throws money at all her problems, and it usually works. There's only a 10% chance of failure, honestly. But her daily spending limit is $2,000 of 1920s money. So she could basically just buy a car every day if she wanted to. So there's your credit rating examples. I think my guy is going to be average. It's recommended 20 to 70, so either average to wealthy. I think we're not the most educated of professors, so we're probably going to be pretty average. So I'll probably throw, make sure my credit rating is about 30 points. Probably put 30 points into credit rating. Be solid average guy. And those come from your occupational skill points, because that's where your suggested credit rating is. So
we get too tangled up. Let's. Do you want to do the occupational, or do you want to do the personal interest points first?
I do occupational first, so then I can see what's left over, and I do my personal interest points from there, because I might want to boost some of my occupational points a bit, depending on how it goes. But I always do occupational first, and the first thing I put is credit rating.
So for your occupational skill points, you have your education times 4, which in your case will be 200 points. Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
You're on 50.
That's
so 200 points 4. To spend. I don't think because I can't edit the on-screen overlay to show all the points I have on that bar. We'll just roughly glance over. This is where I'll put some points. This is where, and then you can see the final sheets on the Encounter website on how we finally did the points. But as you can see, you get 200 points from Lundy's occupation as a professor, and that's in addition to the 180 points that she gets as her personal interest points with her really high intelligence score. So that's a total of like 380 odd points going into this table. And the interesting thing about skills is that you actually start with a base skill number.
Yes, most of them do. A couple of them don't, like credit rating and Cthulhu Mythos. The only way you can get Cthulhu Mythos points is by speaking with your keeper and saying, hey, I'm super into the occult, yada yada. I've had this encounter with this extra entity or something. So usually nobody starts with any Cthulhu Mythos points. It's very rare. Mildred is my only character who's actually had started with Cthulhu Mythos points, and I think Nancy was the one who gained Cthulhu Mythos points throughout the campaign. So usually no one gets many, if any, points in that skill. But yeah, so I'd throw points in credit rating, put 30 in there, so I'd be like, oh, I've got 170 left. Let's say, okay, other language. Let's speak, because we're super into Egypt, let's speak Arabic. That'd be useful on digs. So I'd probably put, there's this fun little chart in the book. I don't remember what page it is right now, but it tells you how many points you need to be either conversational or fluent in a language. So I'd probably get to a conversational level in that language. So I think it's like 30, 35, 40 points. So I'd throw some points in there. My own language, it's already pretty high, 50 for education. Very rarely need to roll your own language. Psychology, I wouldn't put too many points in that. I might just put a little bit in, because that's generally to see if someone's lying. Any four other skills.
That's kind of the D&D equivalent of insight, correct?
Insight, generally,
kind of a similar kind of skill.
Very similar skill. So that's psychology. Being a professor and interested in Egypt, I would probably actually put points into history and anthropology and archaeology for 3 out of my 4 academic skills, and maybe throw some into the occult. Like maybe I was interested in some ancient Egyptian cults and religion. So anthropology, archaeology, occult.
And it very much makes sense why you've been invited to a mummy unwrapping party, which for those who didn't watch last week is our premise, is that our characters have been invited to an extravagant party in a wealthy house in Paris in the 1920s, very early in the 1920s, like 1921-ish. And they're going to have this pharaoh or lost king brought out and do a mummy unwrapping, and that's the premise.
So those are my occupational skills. I have to use all of the occupational skill points into those skills. So I'd be, pretty average, put some points in each of them. As you can see, I picked skills that generally don't start with very high. You only start with a 5% in occult, and archaeology and anthropology you only start with 1%. So they wouldn't be very high, but they'd be higher than the average person. So, because in Cthulhu, your goal is to hit your number or roll underneath it on a percentile die. So I probably put a lot of points into archaeology, with lesser points into the occult and anthropology. Not many in psychology, and those would pretty much be all my occupational skill points. Personal interest points, I would probably put some into either, I'm decently strong, but I'm not very constitutional, so I probably wouldn't go for fighting brawl. I might put some points into handgun, because you never want to, traveling in Egypt and stuff, you might get into some sketchy circumstances. You want a way of defending yourself. Not everyone does. I'd probably put just a few points into handgun. Bring it up to like a 40, put 20 points there. And then maybe for, trying to sneak around at some of the temples, some points into stealth or survival to try to find some tracks. Probably not survival. Definitely a little stealth. Spot hidden and listen are always, you can never go wrong with putting points into spot hidden and listen, because those can help save your life, or you can occasionally see things you're not supposed to in insanity. Yeah, any perception skills. So I'd definitely put some points into spot hidden, which has a base of 25, so you don't need to put that many points into it to get 50. I generally try to go for 50 or above in spot hidden. Mildred did not. She had base spot hidden, and she never saw anything ever, which was a little frustrating at times, but, she's an ancient old lady. So, and then maybe... let's see. You can never also go wrong with putting points in first aid, really. Starts off with a base of 30, which is not bad at all. It's one of the higher base skills to start out with, because everyone knows how to put on a band-aid, to clean a wound, etc. But it never hurts to bump that one up to 40 or 50 as well.
What's one skill that surprised you how much you've used it? Or has there been a character where you've put points into a weird skill and you've been like, oh, actually, that turned out to be really useful?
I've put points definitely into skills before that I never rolled in the entire campaign. Nancy had a bunch of points into law. Never made a law roll ever. Mostly because we were out of her country. So she wasn't familiar with the laws of that country too much. Never really came up. Throw, I'd say, is one of the surprising skills that Vashka had put points into. Came really handy when I had to throw sticks of dynamite. did,
Totally normal
other things.
housewife behavior.
Yeah, totally normal. Throw is not a bad skill. That one is probably what throw and drive auto, but there's been entire campaigns where we've never even touched an automobile. So drive auto can be really hit or miss depending on your campaign premise. But throw has come in surprisingly often.
But it very much feels like go for what is talking to you about your character, right? And just see how that plays in the game. See how you can use that as part of your storytelling. Because the other thing is there's always the luck mechanic as well. Whereby if you just fail something, say you roll a 43 and you needed a 45, you could spend a couple of your luck points for that day to make that roll succeed.
Yes.
And that is a really cool, crucial moment where you're not relying on, your nat 20s or your advantages. You're actively spending a resource and making a choice that this is going to be the moment where I succeed this.
Yes, and you never get luck back. So, you cannot use luck on sanity.
That's right. That's right.
So, insanity is the one roll that you're like, this could be real bad.
I wish I could be lucky. Yeah.
I wish I could be lucky here, but I've seen too much. But yeah, for all the other skills, like Drive Auto, I think there's been a couple of moments where I've tried to stealth, in a very crucial stealth moment. I'm like, yeah, I'll spend between 5 to 12 luck. That's really crucial to remain hidden right now. Let's not let all the cultists know I'm here. So, yeah, it's just... You can't really go wrong with any skills. There's some that I've never used just because it's never come up in the campaign. I'm sure if you were in a Wild West campaign, that the ride skill, which is more for horses and wagons and stuff, I'm sure that would be very useful. But if you're in big city London, 1930s, it's not going to come nearly in handy. So, kind of depends on what your campaign setting is, what your character's doing. And other than that, it's what do you think your character would be good at? What do you think they've done in their life? What do you think they're going to do? What are they interested in?
As the king in yellow, I'm no longer using his first name. I'm now creeped. Says in chat, insanity is a byproduct of knowledge. Not wrong.
You can definitely know too much. It's definitely a thing. High intelligence can be a blessing for figuring out stuff, but it can also be a curse for figuring out stuff. And you're like, oh man, this is bad. So...
I think at this point I want to quickly shout out the Discord where we've added a new roll-up section, and in there I'll be posting a few of these kind of cutouts from the PDFs as well as links to useful websites, including, I think it's called Doll's House or something very similar. I'll put the link in the Discord.
I always picture it in my head as a D Holes House, because it's DHOLES HOUSE. It is that's what I've been using to make my last couple of characters, just because it's very quick. You can knock out a character
very quick. It can
10 minutes, 5 minutes,
pretty much everything for you, and you just have a couple of choices, or you can full manual input. And that's probably what I'm going to use to finally build these sheets. But if you are kind of playing along and rolling along, I'll find that link for you and I will pop it in chat so that you can check that out. So that you can put in all of your interest points, because it'll do the calculations for you and show you the spending. And it calculates your hit points
and everything already for you. So if you're not sure about your own math, roll up in there and you can kind of see how it all adds up. And, if you're not confident in your skills yet. But, there's really no wrong way to build a character. Call Cthulhu.
No, and it's so much fun. I've found... I think that's the link. Or I post the wrong one. I send everyone to Chaosium instead. No, that is the right one. TheHolesHouse.org. So yeah, that's a really great website, and it's got a couple of variant sheets. So
yes, I actually used it to make my Pulp Cthulhu character that I play on Grimjack's channel. So because it's rolling Pulp is different from rolling 7th edition Call of Cthulhu, because there's slightly different rules. So don't use this to make your Pulp Cthulhu character. It can help, but there's variances and such, so you should get the Pulp Cthulhu book if you're going to be rolling up Pulp Cthulhu, or the PDF. Or use the Holes House, because they have it all right there for you.
So, I think that kind of covers how you do your skill spending. You've got 2 pools that you spend from. Obviously, occupation goes into your occupation skills. Personal interest goes into really fleshing out that character and making them your own and who that character is. Speaking of characters, let's have a quick trip down memory lane to your characters as we move towards fleshing out the backstory elements, because the Call of Cthulhu 7th edition book has a really great section with lots of questions and lots of points of thought, which might help as well if you're not familiar with the 1920s Lovecraft period.
They do. They have a lot of history information.
They do. Let's start with Nancy McDrew.
Nancy McDrew, my first real Call of Cthulhu character that wasn't just, here's a pre-gen sheet because I don't know how to build a character. So, she was a private investigator with a lot of points in law that never got used, but she was also very good at spot hidden and listen, and she was just a wee Scottish lass. I actually got together with Redundant UK, and we decided during our character creation that our characters would be best friends. That she's been employed by him, and at first it was just kind of like an employer, like, yes, I'm your private investigator. But then they became friends over time as she helped him communicate with his lady love in France. She could do things on the down low, being a private investigator, and she was very addicted to alcohol. She could not put a bottle of whiskey down to save her life. In fact, she even drank a bottle of library whiskey that was very bad. Never drink strange bottles of whiskey that you find in a library book. It's going to result in a lot of sanity loss. That's what Nancy learned.
And then we had the lovely Quick Lou, who I've already raved about, I think, every show that we've had so far. Who was my favorite? Who was your hobo? And that idea came to you on the car trip, as you explained.
Yes. The depths of my insanity came my insane character, who started off with 45 sanity, because that's not high in Call of Cthulhu at all. And yeah, so her insanity was kind of, I'm not crazy. And she wasn't completely starting out, but she definitely got there. But her basic insanity was, I'm not crazy. But she was. But she was... She woke up with amnesia behind a hardware store. Didn't remember anything except she had a locket that had the name Lucille on it, and she woke up behind Jenkins' hardware store, so she was Lucille Jenkins, and I was just waiting for the opportunity when she went completely insane. I could just run into a room full of bad guys yelling, Lucille Jenkins! And it never happened, but I was ready. I was ready for the day that it did happen. And we had the table of pets up during that month, and she got randomly rolled a slug, which became Larry, which became her best friend, and was the best pet slug of all time.
Justice for Larry!
Justice for Larry! Yes. Gotta love Larry. I had a lot of fun with Lou because she was a little bit crazy. Queen of Cardboard Town. Let's see, she had a whole list of titles that I had sticky noted onto my computer monitor. It's like, Duchess of the Railhoppers Guild, Vice President of the Underbridge Association, basically all the hobo-esque things that I could think of at that time, because there was a lot of people just jumping rails and moving all across the country in the 1920s in America, so being a hobo was not at all uncommon, and she never really liked getting cleaned up. And she was a young lass.
What was the experience difference between making someone who already had a connection, because you said you had a connection with Redundant UK, Tom's character, and then with Lou, she was one on her own, correct? You kind of made her separately, and then...
Completely separate. Yes, we all made our characters completely separately, and the difference is, I feel like you can start off with a kind of familiarity with a certain character. So, she's like, oh yeah, we're best friends, and they wound up teaming up a lot, those two specifically. With Lou, she had to pick who she was going to team up with. Like, she and Jolly wound up hanging out and being, like, best friends, except for Larry. But she kind of developed a little crush on Garen, her Gare Bear, as she called him. And she wasn't sure what to think of Sloane. She was convinced he was maybe a little crazy, and her insanity was that she was not crazy, so she kind of distanced himself from him a little bit. So basically, she had to explore and find out who her connections and ties were going to be to more, which was a little bit difficult for her being a hobo. So depending on your class and what is going on, what your personal problems are, depends on how you might interact with your other characters.
That ties into a question from chat, which is, considering the time period, if making a minority character, do you take into account the biases of the time? And actually, there are a few resources out there that kind of address this, and obviously within Lovecraft's writing, it can't be ignored how horrendously biased he was against a lot of people, and it was kind of terrible. But I think, I'm sorry, I will let you answer eventually. Yeah, I think that comes down to you and your keeper and your group really discussing how you want to approach these things and address these things.
It is definitely down to your personal group. Some groups might be totally
good
fine.
and bad ways of doing it.
Yeah. Your personal group might be super hardcore into being extremely historically accurate. I have not played in a group like that. There are always some NPCs who are going to be a bit more racist than others, specifically in like the books and the modules. And generally those are the characters you're not supposed to really like anyways. So keeping a little bit of that, but nothing to the extreme. I played basically a Russian revolutionary, Vashka. I don't have cosplay pictures for her because it was summer when we played her and I was not wearing a fur coat in my house when it was 85 degrees in my house. So drew the line there. But she dressed up as a man in her backstory to join the Russian Revolution in World War I. That's why her last name was Martikov instead of Martikova. Yay, history and Russian last names. So I take into account a little bit with, for example, the last name change for the story reasons, but not a whole lot. We don't do much of that here in a counter roleplay. There's always a few mentions from an NPC, maybe some prejudices, like, oh, there's these countries that are more uncivilized, and then you might get there and you might change your mind, or you could run into a bunch of headhunters and be like, oh, yes, no, this absolutely confirms my character's convictions and beliefs. So it really just depends on your table and your group and your keeper.
I think that's fair. But it's definitely like an interesting thing to consider, and it is just something that is addressed by a lot of people writing about Call of Cthulhu. And someone posted a really great link, and I've already forgotten what it was, but if I find it, I'll put it in the Discord, which deals with playing, it does deal with playing minorities within the world and kind of turning a few things on the head and how to deal with it. So that was really interesting, and I will find that for the Discord. So we have decided that we are playing a professor and a criminal. We've both assigned some skills that we've kind of feel are in line. I think I'm going to go towards being quite charming because I've obviously gotten myself into this rich woman's house and I'm playing the part and I'm kind of fitting in. So I want to go kind of towards that thing. I'm quite dexterous, so I imagine I will still do the classic kind of
cat
climbing up the outside. Yeah, cat burglar, like climbing up the outside of buildings and that sort of thing. But definitely going for the more charming and personable and possibly nosy, I think, might be a quality this person would have.
Yeah. You'd probably put points into fast talk to kind of get your way out of situations like, oh, guards caught me. I was just taking my friend home. I got lost. I realized a little too much at the party. And maybe charm or persuasion rather than the other two. So
yeah, I think so. I think that's the way I'm going to go. And we've decided that we went to school together. And
I think my character is going to be a curmudgeon a little bit. No charming at all. We're friends because I helped you study. Because I'm real into that archaeology class. Real into it.
I like the idea that maybe you got this invitation and maybe I've been over to visit you asking you about something
I don't have a date. I want you to be my +1.
Yeah, and it's that sort of thing of, I've got this thing that I didn't really want to go to, and I'm like, I want to go there. That sounds like a great place to go. That doesn't sound like it's full of jewels that I want to borrow at all. I like that idea. Yeah. Chat suggested for my mount that I had a bike with a sidecar, and I'm now really liking this idea of I'm kind of like the action-y one. I'm like really into that.
And I just sit in the sidecar with the helmet on. I'm just like
your newspaper like wrapped in your arms.
Yeah, grumpy sidecar man.
Grumpy. Yeah, I'm really liking this idea.
You can be my +1 because most invitations came with a +1 because you know expected to bring someone. Yes,
of course.
It was only proper.
So the few stats that we haven't covered yet that I'll just quickly run past are the Sanity Points, which is your starting power. So for your case, that would be 55, and for my case, that's 70. And sanity
definitely
kind
more
of takes away. Yeah, I'm more sane, and yeah, I'm the one embracing the motorbike in the 1920s.
Mm-hmm.
Not questionable. Personal
Well, it's also
interest points
fine
we've
because
covered.
I've studied the occult. I have points in occult, so it makes sense that my sanity would be a little bit lower too.
Definitely. And you've seen things. I feel like you're one of these people that's seen things, and that's why you're kind of a bit more cautious or like curmudgeon-y, maybe.
Too old for this. You're only 38. Too old for this.
I'm the same age as you. And the other stat that we hadn't covered is magic points, which is 1/5 of your power.
Yes.
And as we mentioned before, there is a table. I think I've got a clip of it somewhere. There it
There's
is.
a table of
quick
half and fifth
reference
values.
Yeah.
Yes. Half and fifth
all the
values
points.
are big in Call of Cthulhu. Because, for example, say you have 50 as your skill in something. So, if your keeper asked you to be like can I see anything in the room? And they go, okay, well, it's going to take a hard success for you to spot something because it's dark or because of the conditions or something going on, or it's really hard. It's a really like well-hidden clue or something. So you'd have to roll a 25 or below, even though you have 50 points in that skill, because you'd have to make a hard success. An extreme success would be a fifth of that. So you'd have to roll a 10 or below to succeed on that. And it happens. It does happen. Promise. Even skills you only have 10 in, you will sometimes get an extreme success. So always roll it. Always roll. Always try. But half and
you
fifth
definitely
values
won't succeed if you don't try.
very true. Half and fifth values are a very big thing in the Call of Cthulhu, and there's that handy chart so you can look at however many points you put in the skill and know exactly what your half and fifth values would be. So if your keeper says roll a hard success or an extreme success, you know exactly what that number needs to be.
Alright, so looking at the PDF, there's a lot of random roll tables which are really helpful for inspiration towards your characters. And I like the idea that we can use a few of these to build on our characters a tiny bit. For personal description, they have choose rather than roll, but I'm liking the idea of maybe rolling some of these. Let's see. Alright, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. This is on page 53, I think.
Page 53.
12 times 3 is 36. So if you could maybe roll like a 1d36. I missed what that was, but thank you so much. I was busy looking at my PDF.
The ideology beliefs.
Thank you so much to Catalyst for that sweet 4 months in a row.
Woo!
Thank you for doing it today on Friday and coming to hang out with us.
Alright, so are we doing the personal description?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, there's a bunch of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
I think it's 36.
Alright, I'll do a 1d36.
I mean, we already kind of have our opponent's scores, but I think you can work any of these into
27.
27.
I'll just do 2 of them so we can see. We can each pick one. That's you. That'll be yours, and this will be mine. 10. I'm dirty.
Okay, which way are you counting? What would my
bachelor? I'm counting down. So let's see, 10. I'm just going down rows. 11, 12, 13.
Typically, I chose a table that's not already numbered. I'm gawky. I think I did that. That probably makes sense because I get either like fixated on things or I get that far away. Like I'm actually staring into space, but everyone thinks I'm looking at them. Look, like that's my like gawky like. That's how that ties into who I am.
I'm such a bachelor. I forget to do my laundry. As it happens, I'm really dirty.
Well, I'll make sure you get cleaned up before we go to the champagne party. I'll lend you like one of my like ascots from my disguise kit, maybe.
Yeah, you know, get all dressed up. You just make me take a shower. It'll be fine. And Pigeon, I need to show how to do the sweet cosplays. I go through my closet and I'm like, how can I make this period appropriate? Or what kind of looks like this? Because really, I'm such a nerd. Like only this much shows, but I usually do the whole thing. I wore a wool skirt every day as Mildred.
There we go. Let's get Mildred up on the screen.
Mildred was one of my favorite ones that I've done.
I couldn't believe every week that you turned up with like everything. It was always so perfect, and then you sit there and knit the entire game. Like that multitasking skill, Lindy.
My knitting needles, my Eldritch Rune inscribed knitting needles. I sat there with a wood burner, was like la 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 Cthulhu signs one night. So I'm that much of a nerd, guys. I love it. I love it so much. And I was very committed to becoming an 86-year-old lady. It also helps to get in character. If you look in the mirror and you see you're in that character's outfit or dress or what makeup, it really helps put you in there even more. It's like a whole nother layer of immersion. I love it. I love it so much. I also use any and every excuse to dress up for anything ever, so this is a great excuse.
Alright, so let's do a 1d10 and we'll do the treasured possessions. Oh, I had it.
Okay, treasured possessions.
For that 100. Yeah. Woo, thank you very much.
Alright. You have a 4.
I have a 4.
I have a 3. I believe that science has all the answers. Pick a particular aspect of interest. Let's go with maybe just
which table was this on?
some aspect of archaeology. And I believe yours would be a belief in fate, karma, the class system, superstitious, etc.
Oh, which table are you using, sir? Oh, I see it.
I'm using ideology and beliefs. Oh, sorry. We also have significant people. Oh yes, the meaningful locations. There's a bunch. There's a bunch of things you can roll in.
So we just did that. Let's do the treasured items one.
Treasured possessions. Yes. All right. Sorry, I was on the wrong chart. There's a bunch of them.
That's okay.
Number one.
There are so many. On pages like 53 to 57 in the handbook, this is where you'll find these.
Yes, meaningful locations, traits, family members. It's really cool. So you got a number 1, which is
an item. Treasured possession. Oh, sorry.
You can read it. I'm sorry. I'm just excited.
An item connected. I'm excited too. Is an item connected with my highest skill? For example, an expensive suit, a false ID, or brass knuckles. Ooh, that's really interesting. I wonder what I'm gonna think about what skill I would put my points into. Why don't we have a look at what you rolled up? Well, I
rolled a 7. Something I found, but I don't know what it is. I seek answers. For example, could be a letter you found in a cupboard written in an unknown language, a curious pipe of unknown origin found among your late father's effects, a strange silver ball you dug up in your garden. Mine would probably be some type of Egyptian artifact I found on a dig and just kept to myself rather than submitting to the museum. Personal curio. Maybe it's like some type of runic tablet that's a hieroglyphic I've never seen before or something.
I'm gonna say my treasured item is gonna be, it's like a mint tin that you would keep for like, mints in, but inside there's actually like a little mirror inside that I can always kind of check my appearance and also use it for maybe like looking around corners and things like that. And it's like a nice. Well,
you could definitely have like a fancy compact. Ooh, what you could do, because you're kind of like a thief, you could have like a compact. But instead of like it being like actual blush or powder, it could be some kind of powder you use to like wipe away your fingerprints from something, or cool idea. Something like that.
Yeah, I like that. I have like this little tin that is like useful in so many ways, and it also just has like a little mint in the corner, like that I pop in occasionally. I love it. Okay,
definitely pretty cool.
What else can we do? So let's do traits as well, because that's the next one on the list.
Traits. All right. I typically ignore the traits because some of them just don't go with character concepts, but I do like meaningful locations.
Okay,
typically, because sometimes it's like, oh, I might not be, a good cook, or what if my character's not very loyal.
Flavor in your head.
Yeah, so I usually avoid traits. I'll do traits for like a one-shot character to kind of help me build up the character. But for like a campaign, I'll usually pick my own. For meaningful locations, number 1 would be your seat of learning. For example, school, university, or apprenticeship. And number 4, a place for quiet contemplation. Example, a library, country walks in your estate, or fishing. Nice fishing spot.
That's really interesting.
So
which would you
something
choose?
meaningful would have happened to you there, or you really like this place. It's like a place you kind of go to. Sometimes it's pretty neat, like a grave of a significant person, or the place you met your first love.
Oh,
that may be Catherine's.
Place you killed your first love.
No. I've never killed any of my first loves in Cthulhu.
That's really cool. So yeah, there's a whole list table. I actually had sorry, I keep clicking on the wrong one. I actually have the full list of occupations. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this in chat, but there are so many options. And I think that's like the main thing I want to talk about with this system, like getting to this point where it is down to kind of nitty gritty, and we will get the final sheets done for you, is you've got so many choices. Let me zoom all the way in. And you can build with this system anything you want, and it's not scary. Yes, you have a lot of points for those skill sections, but you can use tools and you can take your time to kind of figure that out. And it also doesn't take that long. So as someone else mentioned in chat earlier, you could roll 2 or 3 characters to begin with. Because Cthulhu can be quite deadly, especially in a one-shot.
It can be.
So there is that option. But let's just read through a few of these. Let's start at the top. So we have accountant, acrobat, actor, agency detective, alienist, classic. So the way they've grouped them is there are some that are just for modern settings, some that are very classic Cthulhu ones, some that are specifically Lovecraftian.
Like the professor is considered Lovecraftian.
And so you can really make it fit the setting that you want to play in and play this game in any setting, which is super cool. As a system can be this flexible. And
I almost
there are
played
a
a
lot of
waitress.
tools to help you out. That's next, right?
Maybe. Well, no, I have an idea for my next character, but I don't want to give any spoilers.
Spoilers? Okay, I won't ask. But I will be sat here quietly dying. I don't know.
They're super obnoxious. Hope they never come to daylight. Hope they never come to light.
So yeah, there's so many, and they've also grouped a few of them. So like I said, with the criminal one, there was a whole page of different things in there. So it was like the gangster, bootlegger, smuggler, burglar, which really kind of helps you can street punk. Yeah, I don't know why I chuckled to myself. I just thought that's the funniest job title. What's your job? Street punk.
Well, that's how I felt when I said hobo. That's my occupation. Hobo. But yeah, even zookeeper. You could be a zookeeper or a waitress. Mildred was almost a waitress, and then I decided, nah, an occultist would be more fun.
So yeah, there are so many in here, so many options, and the thing is as well, a job does help define who your character is, but that isn't all they are. That's why you have so many personal interest points to really build them and flesh them out. So I think really this leads us to kind of talk about what is next for your characters. Once you've gone through, you've come up with their traits, you've got your character concept, and maybe you've discussed, how you have a relationship with a party member. What's kind of next for that character? What's
generally just playing. Once you kind of have your character basic concept, where they're from, I usually try to determine where they were born, who's their family members if they have any that are living. Because they're not even necessarily safe if they're dead. Just accept that fact right now. Weird stuff happens. Like if I kill them all, it's not the D&D concept, or if my parents are dead, they can never, be held against me. No, that just because they're dead doesn't mean they're safe in Call of Cthulhu. So establish who your family is. If they're important to you, friends, where you live now, where you were raised. Just kind of like small little backstory stuff. It can even just be like a bullet point list. Find out who your fellow investigators are. Playing. Yeah,
your profession also comes with a list of suggested contacts, which I thought was kind of a handy thing to have. So yeah, there are lots of options.
Depending on where you go, and depending on where, because there's a reason you're called an investigator. You're always investigating something. So your suggested contacts can be very important at times, because, you're a criminal. You would probably know other criminals or law enforcement.
Yeah, law enforcement. Yeah.
Whereas I know other professors, other learned people, etc.
Yeah, scholars, universities, and libraries. Very useful. So we've actually overrun a tiny bit,
access.
but we had a lot to go through today. The final thing I want to talk to you about is how do characters develop? How do they level up within this system?
So, generally when I've leveled up in Call of Cthulhu, it doesn't happen often, it's basically I've been given, okay, you've rested or this amount of time has passed, here is, you may or may not get extra little sanity boost, like roll a d6 for sanity or take just basic like 10 sanity points since you've had some time to recuperate. But generally, you almost always get a amount of percentage points. Like everyone gets 10 sanity points and 50 points to put into whatever percentage skills that they want. So basically, it's extra personal interest points is how I've leveled up personally in Call of Cthulhu. Is here's a little bit of sanity and some personal interest points you can add on to whatever else you have. Yeah, because your character would have gotten better at some things throughout this course of action. And it's pretty simple. You just go through like you did and go, I'm going to add a little here, there, there. And they go so fast. It's like when you order French fries and then you start munching and then they're gone. You don't know what happened. That's kind of how it feels when you're putting these personal interest points in. It's like, where did they go? Oh, they were delicious. They're gone. They're there. They've been put into my character sheet.
I feel like Pigeon is giving us like a little hook here. Pigeon says, well, like a hobo, yeah, you're a hobo, but you've seen some shit. Been in this town, and you've seen some shit the rest of the town is ignoring. Ever since these fishermen started this new Church of the Deep Ones, people have changed. Not just mentally, physically too. This can tie you into the group's investigator or bootlegger. Yeah, 100%. And
my hobo was tied in because she was hired by the same organization to kind of be like the person who listens, and she was a thief extraordinaire. She could lift anything. She had maximum points. Usually the cap for skill points, unless you're in a pulp campaign, is like 75, unless you level up. So she was really good at lockpicking, really good at stealth. She could sneak in and out, order places everywhere. So that was how she was connected, is because, oh, we might need someone to get these people in and out of places. You're our hobo.
Sure. So I guess the thing that I really want people to take away from having just gone through this with you for like the last three weeks is just how adaptable the system is, and there's a little bit of number crunch, but the book is so well laid out. It's got so many suggestions and helpful hints in it that it's a really easy system to use, and I think Chaosium did a great job with the 7th edition. Definitely check out the Quickstart if you're interested in just getting a game together and trying out maybe a character that you built along with us, or trying out the characters that we've made, because they will be on the website. And yeah, as we suggested, check out the Hole's House. The Hole's House. It sounds really rude. I don't know why. Is that just me?
It does. No, it does sound a little rude. But it's a really great way if you have a bunch of people, you want to do a one-shot of Call of Cthulhu, and you don't want to go through the time of teaching everyone how to roll up characters, you just roll up a bunch of quick random characters. Here you go, let's play, because it's that easy. It's roll a d100. You succeed. So it's one of the best laid out books I've ever seen or read in my RPG history.
I want to say a massive thank you to you, Lindy, for coming on, and I would love to sit here for another hour and keep talking, but I did promise Will that these sessions were only going to be about 45 minutes. Shh. Between us, chat, between us. I do want to thank chat for coming and hanging out today too. Does anyone have any final questions that we can, and Cthulhu, praise be, have any final questions that we can answer for you, or that we can consider and get back to you? Post those in. I'm just gonna go back to these pictures of you in your costumes, because
I have a new one now too.
I don't have a picture of a new one.
Yeah, I know.
So, okay, how would you costume your professor, do you think? We haven't.
How would I costume my professor? I would try to find like a tweed jacket if possible. Goodwill, your local thrift store, is a fantastic resource because there's a lot of old, out-of-style clothing there, and you can easily fashion it all up. And the 80s was essentially a big 20s revival, so a lot of the things that you can find there can be adapted very easily. For example, the pink shirt I'm wearing for Catherine was very 80s, and then I altered it a little bit. Now it's very 1920s, 30s. So I'd probably put him in a tweed shirt, maybe like a tie that's kind of like loose, like it's on, but it's like you undid it at the end of the day. You kind of just have it top collar button unbuttoned, and then I'd probably try to get a fake mustache because I think it'd be funny.
Like a Poirot type mustache, like a really heavy.
Yeah, like a little, like just like a little caterpillar on my upper lip, and then I'd pull my hair back, so it'd be all flustered. Maybe a few pieces hanging out because he's a little flustered. He's dirty, and so yeah, I found like a dirty tweed jacket, and then that'd probably be it. That's probably how I dress him up.
I think what Pigeon just said is very right. Remember that your DM, or keeper in the case of Call of Cthulhu, is there to help you communicate with them and see what will fit their setup. It can help you build a background for your character. Yes. I think that's very true. If you're not building with the other players, because that's how you've chosen to do it, your keeper is another player. They're just a special player within the game. They're just helping facilitate the story. So they're a great person to bounce ideas, and they're invested in this world as much as they'd like you to be. So definitely talk with your keepers. Even if it's a fixed module, they'll have some ideas and you'll come up with something, and then you'll both run off in a new direction straight into the abyss. What status does dressing up have for you personally and for the game in general? Do you do that in private groups when you actually play?
It depends in private groups. It depends on private groups. I tend to try to dress up, or at least have an item that I associate with that character to me, because it helps me really get in character. I think it's a ton of fun. Number one, it's a ton of fun. Number two, it helps get in character. And and if everyone else dresses up too, it's just really exciting. Like, I logged on for Wednesday, and everyone was dressed up for Masks of Nyarlathotep, and we were so like giddy and happy. We're like, look so
neck
cool.
Tattoos.
Like, yes, and he's got a lead tooth too. If you look at that carefully, he's got a lead tooth. And the neck tattoos and the hat, the pinstripe suit. Dawn's got a super cool hat. I love Redundant's outfit. He looks so just dapper, like the good doctor should be. And then Catherine and Marcus are a little more casual, because they've been around in a lot of foreign countries before. They're like, yeah, this is Peru, we're fine, we can let loose here a little bit. But no, I feel like it just brings a whole another level of immersion. It's a ton of fun. I have dressed up for home games before. It really depends on the home game group that you're with, because some people might feel uncomfortable because they're now like, I don't really want to do this whole character thing. So there's been points where I've just done accents or voices, but I've totally dressed up for home games too. So doesn't matter on screen or off screen. I just think it's a ton of fun, and I do it as much as possible. In fact, I'm going to be
group enjoys.
Yes, I'm going to be dressing up and playing D&D at my local Ren Fair in a couple weekends, so with some other cool D&D people. There will be pictures posted on Twitter of us all being Ren Fair nerds and with bringing our dice to the Ren Fair and just commandeering a picnic table, so that's my level of dress up funness. I just love it as much as possible.
So, Lindy, without further ado, is there anything you would like to plug and share with these wonderful people who have come to hang out with us this fine Friday?
No, I think we've covered Call of Cthulhu very thoroughly. I hope that helps everybody so much figure out how to build their own characters, give them ideas, give them inspiration, and just have a great time. Call of Cthulhu is one of my favorite systems. The book's excellently laid out. And check out Masks of Nyarlathotep every Wednesday right here from 1 to 4, where you can see us all dressed up and having a super duper fun time. And I may or may not be, once we get into the crazier stuff, muting and yelling at my monitor a lot, but we'll see what happens. Yeah.
By the way,
super
next
fun.
time you guys see that title stream, and you will see Lindy cheering her heart out as Mildred, is one of my favorite moments from the channel, and I'm so glad that every week I get to see it right before a game that I'm playing. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. I'll try and remember to play the video at the end so you can all enjoy that. I'm just going to quickly post, I've just got the link for the quick start guide on Chaosium, which is worth checking out, and you can also from them buy the PDFs and the hard books as well.
Mm-hmm.
There is one that's for the investigators. It's very much like a player's handbook in D&D terms, and then there's one that's for the keeper, which again is like a DMG.
this is the player's handbook, but I will tell you, all you need for the call, it's very similar to D&D. You don't need the DMG. If you have the player's handbook, you can start playing a game. I think there even might be a sample adventure in the back of this one. I'm not sure. I don't remember. It's been a little while, but this is all you need to get started. Aside from the quick start rules. But if you're looking to buy a book, I recommend this one first.
Yep, 100%. So thank you very much, Lindy. Thank you very much, chat. I'm going to take us to the tunnel because I think it's about time we give away some more dice so that you guys can have some real dice to roll next time we're rolling up characters. Next week we will be back, and we will be back here with a new guest and a new system. Next week we are rolling up some Warhammer 4E characters with the wonderful web DM Jim, who is my DM for Warhammer. And we're actually, I think we're going to make some characters for the actual campaign, who may appear as NPCs. We'll try and twist Jim's arm on that one. So, let's take it to the tunnel, and I will see you guys very shortly for that dice giveaway.